Shut the fuck up, mom. You don't fucking get me. You always walk all over my fucking boundaries. You don't fucking understand me. But I love you though. You can have anything you want. You're so entitled. I humbly bow to it. So, before we get into that, right? Before we get into the shut the fuck up mom thing, right? Shout outs to Emotions Made Easy. Thank you guys for being great clients and actually taking time to progress. I'm learning so much from you guys. And I even had a client recently tell me, hey, listen, it's the energy. When I call you, when I speak to you, it's not even about being a therapist. You're actually there for me as a friend. And I appreciate that because I'm trying to learn too. The best way that I've learned to help you is by helping myself and actually understanding myself. So I'm naturally empathetic. Shout outs to my spirit. Shout outs to Fire Safety Made Easy. Keep graduating, keep using the study guides. Beautiful hacks, beautiful things I learned so you can upgrade your baby mama to a Honda. I think that's the song. I don't fucking know. Varsity's clothing coming, dropping another EP in a few because I could do that. Stay confident, guys. That's my message today. Stay confident, be you. Never give up your right to being the creator. Once you do that, you allow everything outside of you to create for you. The osmosis has to stop. You're not young anymore. The age of reason starts at 7. If you're over 18, 16, 15, whatever the fuck you are, it's time to be a better version of you. And you know your spirit is going to lead you in that direction, no matter how or what your ego says. Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. Shut the fuck up, mom. I fucking hate you, mom. No, I love my mother. She's amazing. But let's talk about it. How has understanding and knowing yourself from a loving space help you set boundaries with your mom? For me, listen, when I was younger, I went to Barbados. My mother sent me to Barbados to live with a beautiful lady named Kim. She was like a mother to me also. I mean, she is a mother to me. Shout outs to Kim, yeah? And all my brothers over there genuinely, because Kim has beautiful kids. So shout outs to Alex and all the brothers genuinely. Yeah, shout outs to Kim. And then I came back up here, moved to Canarsie. Then I moved to Brownsville. You know, I was living in Canarsie with my mom, my sister, and my uncle. Moved to Brownsville and survived it. But shout outs to Brownsville. Never ran, never will go back. Genuinely without a purpose. Shout outs to you guys that have made it past and thank you for serving. Because shit is crazy, right? One thing I learned as I got older, because my mother used to discipline me from a space of grabbing that fucking hanger and going ballistic. And I've had that conversation with her too, in relevance to her being abusive, and she'll tell me that she's not. But like I told her, it's very subjective. It's the idea that another person can probably look at what you're doing and consider it abusive. Even though you don't feel that way, just know that hitting a child or even hitting a child within aspects of frustration is not the way to go. It's very lazy-minded. If you've made the mistake before, sure. But after a while, why are you hitting the person you love? It's the same thing with domestic abuse, and I've been through both. So why are you hitting the person you love genuinely? Shout outs to my lady. Shout outs to my baby. Shout outs to my dog. Shout outs to me. Shout outs to my lady for going up, going far. My birthday is December 2nd. I'll be 30 and I'm right where I need to be. And I'm understanding that because you never get what you want. You get what you are. So you do what you have to do what you want. And what you have to do is be all aspects of your spirit. So how has understanding and knowing yourself from a loving space help you set boundaries with your mom? Listen, I unpack a lot. You know, I had a situation with my mom at one point where, you know, like I just told you about the aspect of talking about the abuse. And one thing I didn't do to her was like kind of put her in a space where I forgot she was a kid also. I did remember that my mom was a child. I'm still building the history and relevance to what she went through. She's a human being just like me that had to deal with this system. Fortunately, she did it without a man in her life. Yeah, still healing through not having a dad, but I know for sure I was capable, and I'm still capable, and look, I'm becoming a dad. One thing I'll say in relevance to that is you have to understand that you can spend but so much time worried about what happened to you, and you won't be mindful. You'll be time traveling a lot when you're going through that pity, and you pity the fool. You're not a fool. You're very smart because you have a spirit, a smart spirit. So we could either spend our time dwelling on the idea, or I could have, that I didn't have a father, and then I might fuck around and become that version of him or the evolution of him and still not be there for my kids. So that didn't happen because I unpacked and I unlocked the father achievement. So shout outs to that nigga. Now, in relevance to my mom did it by herself. She raised me and my sister, my oldest sister. Shout outs to my sister. She's doing great things. And my beautiful niece doing great, great, amazing things. Robin, you're capable, you're amazing, and you can do anything you put your mind to. Ask not if you can do it. Ask, do I believe I can? Trust me, you can. So, you know, my mom had a rough lifestyle, and as we all do, I'm not using this as justification and relevance to not addressing my boundaries. But before I got to that space, I had to actually sit down with myself. Remember, my mom had kicked me out the crib. I wouldn't consider it a kick out, it was for me. But then that's how I thought it. She had called me for some money and I had to pay rent. I made that known. And she was like, well, it's a yes or no question. And I'm like, fuck. All that triggers, those triggers came up the threads connected to that moment. And I'm just like, what the fuck is she talking to me like that for when you kicked me out? So how I thought then, I don't feel that way now. Shout outs to Mom Dukes. I went through that, unpacked. Shout outs to my boy Trey. I had gave him a call. My boy Trey's a rapper, Nostalgia. Go check him out. Amazing music. But I was able to unpack that. I cried about it because I didn't know how to explain it. Usually you cry. Men are afraid to cry. Men are afraid to be vulnerable, but just know that you are vulnerable and you can cry. You do have those feelings to want to. So if you're stopping yourself from doing that, you won't get the full dose of your unpacking, but it's inevitable for you to win lovingly through losing and vice versa. But I cried about that shit. That shit fuck with me. And it's been in me, and it's been intuitive and very primal, especially since I've been polarizing with my beautiful lady. And shout out to my baby once again, my lady and my dog. But I learned how to be vulnerable with myself, and that took a long time. It took a lot of mistakes. It took a lot of unpacking, unlocking. It took a lot of going over the same aspects and habits and fine-tuning them, because involvement equals evolution. But I had to find myself. I had to understand mental telepathy. If I'm seeing her being this, what am I being? So if you get to that stage where you start to disassociate yourself from certain qualities that you learned and certain traits that you learned from your parents, in this case, my mom. And after I disassociated, I had went through a short period of time where I was very judgmental, but I never stayed there. You know what I'm saying? Because time is relative. I never stayed in that space. So I was able to lose the judgment and judge with an open mind, because I was judgmental, but I noticed that I wasn't also. And I never closed my mind to the idea that the things that I was seeing here, whether it was from hurt or not, that there might have been other realities of that based on what my mom had been through, and I should probably ask a question over time and learn to listen and learn to respond genuinely. And careful observation is the key to complete awareness. So I was able to get to that point. My mom is amazing. So I started to understand myself, love myself a lot more. And I remember I would just magically have these conversations with her, and it would lead, like, I wouldn't plan it. I wouldn't be Mr. Judge and Jury. Uh, I've called my mom, I've cried before, genuinely. I've spoken to her from a deep space. I've been vulnerable with her, and her response wasn't what I expected, what I thought it should be, I should say. And I unpacked. I learned how to unpack from my beautiful lady. Shout outs to the feminine, and it leads right back into the idea of who my mom was. Her taking on two roles as masculine and feminine, it got to the point where I would casually wish her happy Father's Day every Father's Day. Then as I got older, I started to realize that women are energy and men are structure. So when I started to see that and I started to understand things as I went through my own experience too, I got to understand that, I'm going to start to talk to my mom from a different space. I already had the intent to be loving and genuine because my mother is fucking cool, man. I'm telling you. Like, I don't have to make that up. I said that subconsciously. And, through those long conversations, like, I remember I sat with her talking. I had moved out and I had ended up seeing her on her way to work. And I went to work with her. And we sat down and we was just talking as the mosquitoes bit the shit out of me, but it was such of a genuine conversation. I didn't mind being mosquitoed. But I started to learn more about her naturally and organically. My spirit just has that will to be curious, like I'm a Sagittarius. As you know, I'm in Jupiter. I don't know how to really say this much, but my girl knows, and my boy Justin. But I'm the type of person, according to the Sag aspect and the Jupiter aspect, I create my own philosophies. I'm curious, I'm optimistic, and I'm definitely that genuinely and subconsciously. Without knowing much about it, I am it. So I always had that will to not more so create the mom I saw, but when I had those moments where there was an opportunity for me to build that bond, I jumped into it naturally. And my spirit, because I give my spirit free reign, I definitely trust my spirit. So that's another thing that we have to learn how to do. You have to trust your spirit. A lot of us are not into forgiving. A lot of us are into holding grudges. Like, we're injustice collectors. At that point, you're a school shooter. You'll catch my drift later. I'll do a video on that. But just to how has understanding and knowing yourself from 11 space helped? It helped because it brought me closer to her. It helped me understand that, hey, maybe I shouldn't be so judgy. But then again, it started with judging. That's how I got to it. You always have to start off negative. But as you start to disassociate your internal from the qualities and traits that you got from your parents or over time, you start to hold yourself accountable and you leave the persecution complex alone. You start to build a genuine relationship naturally. It starts to materialize in its own way. And the only way you can notice it is if your mind is free. It's independent and free. And you're open to it. You're open to hurt. So it starts with being open to hurt. And that's how I got there. So the more open to hurt I am is the more I unpack. So that was the beauty of it. Yeah. Can you explain how addressing your boundaries assertively after unpacking and understanding negative experiences has allowed you to enjoy being your full spiritual self? Addressing my boundaries with myself was more so like, hey, this person made me feel a way, but question, how did I make me feel? That was it. It was put the pity aside, hold yourself accountable, not from an aggressive space. It was more like, what am I doing? because you can't hold somebody accountable for something unless you hold yourself accountable. So I got into that notion naturally, and I made this a normal. And before I knew it, I was unpacking more. And by the way, these I kept elevating limitlessly, and I still am. I'm a lot better than who I was, but it's about accepting to jump into the flow, and not really worry about where the current is taking you. Just know that the nature of this is empathetic and genuine, and that's what your spirit is. So, my spiritual self, I started to even self educate myself on what a woman was, ways of a superior man, how to respond to hurt, how to understand myself. Like, naturally, I would attract these things because I naturally wanted it. So, it has brought me to the space of understanding that me being my spiritual self is endless, and how to sharpen it is I have to be mindful of where I'm going with it. Losing and winning is a game of war. You understand? Because a winner can win and still lose, and a loser can lose but still be a winner. Learn from your losses and actually enjoy your wins. The same way you enjoy your wins, enjoy your losses. So, yeah, unpacking and understanding negative experiences. A lot of times we avoid negative experiences because of the detachment. Negative experiences happen even quicker. I naturally have the urge to understand my negative and actually enjoy my positive. So it kind of balances it out, and they call that the law of neutralization. So you watch that pendulum swing, and I got good at observing, not really impulsively reacting. Because when you're a fearful person, right, you start to understand that what happens during fear is hyperactivity and inaction. And when you're in that state of mind, you're so hyperactive, you're not doing much. But false evidence appearing real is the acronym for fear. You start to understand that once you open up your mind, the false evidence attracts the truth because you have to unpack that false evidence. And that's what creates the aspects of negativity at times. Sometimes we're too afraid to open that door, like in Supernatural with Bobby. When he got caught in his mind, his wife had become a demon. And in his brain, he was afraid to open that door because he ended up killing his wife. So we got to get to that point where we live as though the fantasy we created, or the idea that we created of our parents, our mom, shut the fuck up, mom, of our mom, we have to let go. We have to let that die so we can actually embrace what truly exists. And you could only imagine what truly exists. Yeah. But you will find out. In what ways did you consider your mother as a feminine energy trying to balance herself? And how did this perspective help in your relationship with her? One thing I noticed about my mom, it was the same thing I noticed in my lady and my sister and in every woman I've encountered, is that their intention, I mean, what I attract genuinely, human beings itself, the intention is not bad unless I think it as bad. And that started with my beautiful lady, my beautiful best friend, my beautiful wife to be, my fiance, my genuine lover. And I started to understand that I actually love my mom. I just had to learn how to love her different as I got this information together. I started unpacking the past, the present, and allowing the future to create itself as I genuinely gave life and love to the present. And I actually started to learn from the past. And I always wanted a brighter future. So I want that naturally. My mom, like I would talk to her a lot more. and you start to learn things through engaging. A lot of us are ignoring our parents and our moms and our dads because of things that we went through when we were younger, not knowing that they might have went through the same shit. So it's not more so about giving them blame, it's about holding yourself accountable to heal and understand that you can actually learn from them so you can potentially create your own family and not make the same mistakes but make better mistakes. So yeah. And my mom being feminine energy, always happy, always full of life. Women never lie to you, they tell you how they feel. And you just have to be able to dissect that enough so you can learn from it with an open heart. I think sometimes as men, mm, we tend to hold on to grudges, and we're very aggressive, or we try to fix our relationships with our moms or our parents by doing human shit. No matter how much flowers you buy your mom, she won't take you serious unless you understand that this is not about the flowers. This action is not transactional. You're not an Indian giver. You're not doing this so you can throw it back in somebody's face. So now I can use the entitlement. You got to start understanding that women carried us for 9 months. Our moms carried us for 9 months. We talking through the Braxton Hicks, if that's how you pronounce it, and we're talking for 9 months. Her intent was to deliver you safely into this world. I need you to understand how cosmic that is. So just because she did that doesn't mean you have to let her walk all over you in your mind, because this is a figment of your imagination. It's not as intense as she may think it is. You have to start speaking up for yourself. And how do you do that? You have to actually breathe and allow yourself to get past that fear, those triggers, and keep trying. Keep repeating the same method with an open, sound, calm heart. You're not always going to say something. I started off not saying much. And now all of a sudden, I'm just naturally saying things and breaking apart these illusions. And I'm not hurting anybody genuinely. You know what I'm saying? It's all about love and empathy. It's all about balance. Yeah. How did moving out help you realize that you needed to live your own life and create your own family? I remember I had used my sister's toothbrush to clean my 14s, my Jordan 14s. I was under the impression, and I must have misheard, or maybe I didn't, yes and no. My mother had told me that one of the toothbrushes there wasn't being used, and I think I might have used the wrong one. I didn't really think at that moment. I was in a rush, so I should have thought. Shout outs to my sister, sorry about that. But, I end up going to bed after cleaning my beautiful 14s, and my sister had came and she was like, yo, hey, did you use my toothbrush? And I had said, well, I had used a toothbrush to clean the sneakers. And my first thought was, well, here's the money to buy it back. My sister didn't like that. So she ended up speaking to my mom. And before you know it, my mother was like, well, listen, April 1st, you got to go. Well, before that, genuinely, I woke up, had a conversation. They were both sitting in the living room. And my mom was on some shit where it was like, I didn't say that. And I could only imagine, because the past is the past. But I felt the way, and I end up leaving and going to work that night. I didn't say much because I felt cornered. I dipped, and then I received a text in the morning that you got to leave April 1st. And everything happens for a reason, because my lady ended up hitting me up that day, and it was like, wow, you didn't even know I moved out. And blase blah, things happen how they happen. Now we're having a child. Everything happens for the reasons they do, based on you seeing the positive in it and the spirit in it. You know what I'm saying? So, I moved out. First night was beautiful. Didn't have no furniture, but I got the room. Wasn't too sure if I was going to get it, but I did. Shout outs to Tristan. he pulled out that money for me. Shout outs to my boy Trey for being loving and open. And shout outs to you, Trey. Keep going. You're capable. Uh, but when I moved out is when I finally started to understand that I left that environment and I didn't have to carry my weights with me. I didn't have to carry the traumas, the negative experiences. I'm in a space now where I can be free and independent from rules. Because when in Rome you do as the Romans do. I can be free and independent, and I don't have to really sweat that, that the judgment that I thought I was getting. And it was like, I got my lady with me, went through everything with her because it was another phase of life now. I had to live life having a girlfriend, learning her, understanding her. Mind you, that was my best friend before that. So now I'm learning her. We're going through the domestic situation, verbal abuse, blah, blah, blah. And more beautiful moments than that. Thus me being where I'm at with her today. Shout outs to my lady, my baby, and my beautiful dog. Shout outs to you, Ruth. I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you for bearing with me. And I thank me for bearing with you. Just like you've done plenty of times. And we show our appreciation as we sit down and we talk and do our shadow work together. But the idea was I moved out and now life had changed. Fast forward, I'll be 30 Monday. And I'm in the right space mentally, spiritually, because it starts there and then the other stuff starts to materialize itself. Moving out helped a lot. I had to get away from that space. Sometimes when you're in the quicksand, you're so focused on who threw you in there, and you're not even realizing the rock you slipped on, as the person you was going back and forth with might have told you, well, I hope you land in quicksand. And there's a rope right next to you, but you can't see that because gratitude for oneself and spirit is what creates the ideas and the clarity to see these opportunities. So yeah, moving out helped me a lot, even going through a miscarriage, a misconception, and now finally being 4 weeks away from having my child. I went through a lot and I didn't allow myself to go under. Shout outs to my lady for keeping me ahead and me keeping myself ahead by understanding that the key to who I am is in me. Thus, my lady respecting me, my mother respecting me, women respecting me genuinely, and me respecting myself, right? And I also learned that woman wasn't just a piece of meat. So I kind of strayed away from the sexist aspect, the hyper masculine, machoist aspect of those realities that were created based on megalomania, distrust when from men going through shit with their moms and then attracting mothers in their relationships and expecting a woman to cook and clean for you and blah, blah, blah. Different story. But moving out helped a lot. Sometimes you got to get out the situation. You have to get out the area, the environment, so you understand that it's up to you to create your reality in your universe. So I got to experience that. So yeah. Okay, so also, and how did this oh yeah, we did that already. Can you elaborate on the process of unpacking your childhood trauma and continuously being optimistic about it to trust your spirit as you unlock it? Uh, the process of unpacking the childhood trauma, you know, comparison is the thief of joy. One thing that I realized was when I started to look at other people's lives and I heard their stories, I started to realize that I was in a good space. I was in a space where I was more fortunate than most. My mother actually carried me for 9, carried my sister, sent me down to Barbados. I learned so many beautiful things, came back up, and made it through Brownsville, made it through Canarsie. I wasn't a statistic. You know what I'm saying? And my mother was involved within the idea of who I was becoming somewhat. 50-50, everything is polarity. Could she have done a better job? Sure. But did she do a great job? Sure. Look at me. I'm talking to you right now as the man I've become and am becoming. So, unpacking childhood trauma became a lot easier when I started to understand that people were going through worse things than me. You may be mad right now, or you may have had a time where you were, in relevance to threads connected to your parents in your childhood. And I'll tell you this, in another country, there is a kid being taken from his village and being brought up as a child soldier so he can go ransack other villages as they rape the women and probably or potentially castrate the men, just to become the idea of war. It's like Echo and Loss. You saw what he went through. Even the idea of having to kill a man just to protect his brother from killing a man. You know what I'm saying? If you watch Lost, beautiful show on Netflix. But I learned a lot from looking at other people's situations and actually not making the same mistake. So unpacking kept getting deeper for me because it never ends. So I learned to journal, meditate. I learned to understand who my woman was by understanding myself. I went through different experiences like a miscarriage, misconception, domestic abuse between me and my lady, and actually getting far from having to be that and becoming someone that can actually speak to my woman and my woman can actually speak to me. Uh, Actually understanding myself. To be honest with you, I sat down listening to Brian McKnight one night, and that motherfucker makes you cry. You know what I'm saying? And I got to understand a lot about what a man is supposed to be endlessly, and I'm still understanding that now. So unpacking definitely did help me unlock myself because you can't play a board game without unpacking it. So I started to understand it a little bit more. There were certain things that I wasn't trying to see because I was afraid of seeing them, and I was still seeing them. It's just that my human side it wasn't coming to a consensus with my spirit. They were at odds, and my mental was in the middle, right? So I was able to hop out of purgatory, but you constantly go through this on a regular because from my perspective, life is like this. You got hell and heaven, right? And you got to pick between those. The process of picking is purgatory. You can either go to heaven or you can go to hell. But just understand that to get to heaven, you have to get to hell. These things are a state of mind. So I wanted to unpack my hell. And false evidence appearing real, you understand that hell is a facade. It's an idea of dogma until you actually create a better version. Candyman, I was afraid of him until Jordan Peele. After a while I wasn't because I was sitting with myself learning about Papa Legba, blase blah, etc. And I was actually tapping in. Shout outs to my boy Ori. He introduced me to the idea of spirituality. After I had looked up where do black people come from and got no results. Anywho, another story. But I was able to transcend my idea of what Candyman was. Thus, me enjoying a beautiful movie by Jordan Peele in relevance to, go watch the movie, but in relevance to Candyman not being what I thought it was. Just a figment of my imagination that I boosted based on me being young. And when you're young, you're a spirit. So your imagination is a lot brighter, and I think a lot of us lost that. But that's another story to another video. But what was we talking about just to be safe? Just the unpacking, being optimistic about to trust your spirit. Trusting my spirit came from experience and constant not trusting. That's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that you have to go through hell to get to heaven. Everybody just wants to get to heaven without going through that phase of hell. You have to understand that you can't enjoy positive until you actually unpack negative. You can't unlock positive unless you unpack negative. There has to be a process. So I was able to understand that process over time more and more as I sat with myself, I journaled, I had conversations where the TV was just naturally off. And I would sit down and talk to my lady. I would talk to myself by myself, talk to my dog, talk to me. Well, I never really talked to my dog, but I learned a lot from him too. Shout outs to my dog, Zoe. Shout outs to my lady. Shout outs to my beautiful baby boy, which, like, I talk to him now, understanding that spirit is a lot deeper than what we can fathom and understand, but it's more about what we can believe. So, yeah. I was able to, all you have to do is accept, sit with yourself. 30 minutes, I learned that from the 7 spiritual laws of success. Sit with yourself, understand who you're becoming, understand who you are. And that's endless. That's limitless. Just understand, like in the movie Limitless, when he took the pill didn't make him be who he was. The pill just gave him the idea that, or it made him feel a certain way in order to to bring back up things that mattered for that moment. So like if I'm sitting here trying to find out which pizza to eat, I'll go back to a memory. Maybe I was at gunpoint and the gunman said, you need to pick a pizza. Is it going to be pepperoni or cheese? And now I get a thought on which one is better for me. And if I don't make that truthful decision, he'll blow me to bits. And now my brain starts working and my spirit starts working. They all start working together, the spiritual, the mental, the physical. And it was been there. It's not like it wasn't. Your mind is clear. It's only like the brain can't process negative. So you start to realize that all this stuff is there, but you have to unlock it. And in order to unlock it, you have to unpack it. So, yeah. How has embracing the things you pitied yourself for helped you move past feeling like a fool and towards a greater awareness of your spirit? It started with apologizing to myself. Persecution complex is funny. I've naturally sat there and blamed others when in actuality, what you're blaming somebody for is only a reflection of yourself. So you'll get caught in that labyrinth or that maze if your focus is to blame somebody else. Every truth has two sides, absolute and relative. You have to understand that absolute is your internal, relative is your external. So the more you don't understand both sides, if you just hold on to the absolute, the pity, you just hold on to that from a negative space, just from a bad space that's making you feel low. Because the lows and highs they just exist. Mastery doesn't consist of abnormal visions or fantasies. It consists of you raising your frequency from lower to higher over and over again. You want to go to heaven, you got to go through hell, blah, 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 etc. Rapture, blah, 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 right? States of mind, map of consciousness level charts by David R. Hawkins. Do that later, video for that. But the idea is when you sit in pity, you sit there blaming everybody else and never holding yourself accountable. The only way to hold somebody accountable for what they've done, and this is about the idea of creating that boundary, is by actually holding yourself accountable and understanding you are the creator of this mind. Even though you are the creator in the creator, that's what free will is. You have the option to be better, your version of it, or be your version of worse. And best believe your spirit knows which one is which. So, yeah. Much love, much peace, always a beauty talking to you guys. And I noticed that when I do videos like this, it allows me to unpack even more to help you guys with your situations. So listen, forgive your mom. You don't have to hang around her all the time, but at least start that frequency up in relevance to you internally. Forgive your mom. She's been through aspects too. Doesn't justify what happened or what was said. But remember, this is about you. It's not per se about that version of your mom that you don't like. All right? So you have to embrace that. The whole thing is this. Once you start to hold yourself accountable for your own pity, it goes with endure, pity, embrace. Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. If you hold yourself accountable for your pity, you can actually start to embrace what you endured, and that creates the idea of your highest self and your truest spirit over and over again. Much love, much peace. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Appreciate you for viewing. More videos coming soon. Much more love, much more peace, and keep being you. You're capable of being anything that you want to be. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're not, because the brain can't process negative. It's how you're looking at things. Men are not ruined by things, they're ruined by their perception of it. Love, peace. Ah!